What does that even mean, Bowers Game Corner?
Ahoy there, YouTube! Back again today for another game review. Today I'm very excited to check out The Voting Game from The Voting Game LLC. This is for 5 to 10 players, ages 17 plus, adults only, and it'll take you as long as you want to play it. It is a party game in that sort of ilk. And in The Voting Game, you're going to be asking some pretty out there and sometimes risque questions about everyone at the table. And everyone is going to vote on who they think is most likely to have done that thing. Now, there's a lot of different house rules in there, so you can play it in numerous different ways. But, is the game good? Let's open it up, check it out. Alrighty then, we're going to take a look at what you're going to get inside of the voting game. So first and foremost, we've got a handy dandy little rule sheet. As you can see, it is very, very small. This is a very simple game. In fact, this side right over here is just variants that you can play with. And in fact, this is not really a game so much as a social experience, even though you can make it into a game with some of the various different house rules. I personally really wouldn't recommend doing that because then people will vote a little bit dishonestly. I actually kind of just liked it more as a casual game experience, but I'll talk more about that in the pros and the cons. So in this game, you're going to get cards, and more cards, and we'll go over what kind of cards you're going to get, and then I'll show you how the game is played. So I've got a 5-player game set up over here. Each person is going to have a number card set up in front of them. You can also fold them in half if you want to do that, but then if you want, who wants to fold their cards? You know, that's just me being anal about games. But yeah, so everyone's going to have a number in front of them, and then you're going to have voting cards. And on the back, they're going to say voting cards on there. And you will have however many numbers there are of players. So in this case, you would have 5 cards, but you would also take out one of the, whatever number you are. So let's just pretend we're 2. We would take away the 2, which means we have 4 cards to vote from right there. So what you're going to do is you're going to select the first person to be the question reader, and then they are going to read the question off the top of the deck, which is going to be a big stack of question cards. And despite the size of the box, which is relatively small, I really do think that there is just enough amounts of questions to make it feel like some games you'll get and you'll be like, oh man, you know, I feel like we're repeating questions too frequently. I feel like there's enough cards in this game that does not come into play, at least in the second edition. So, you read the top question of the card, top question of the card. It says, who says the weirdest stuff during sex? So you set that out there, and everyone is going to take their voting card, and they were going to place it right down there, including the person who is the one that read aloud the card, and everyone's going to mix up their cards, like so, just mix them up, and then they are going to reveal, and you say, alright, there's a vote for 4, and a vote for 5, and a vote for 2, and a vote for 1, and so on and so forth. This is where the game takes a little bit of an interesting turn, because now you're going to go around the table to the left, and whoever got votes are going to try and guess who voted for them. And I do want to stress that the rule booklet says storytelling and witty banter are encouraged, and I highly agree with that, especially on a question like this where you have couples. This can get very funny and for some people uncomfortable, but for me personally, well, let's just say this card actually came up the first time we played this, and it was pretty freaking hilarious. But then they try and guess who it is. If they guess correctly, then that person has to say yes, that they are the person. And if they get it wrong, well, they get it wrong, and this person is just left wondering who thinks I say weird things during sex. And everyone's going to go around and guess what it is, and then you are going to repeat. And that's it. That is the entire game. And when I say game, I want to mention, I use the air quotes there. Now, as I mentioned, there are some house rules that will shake it up. One of them is majority. Whoever gets the most votes is going to get a point. I don't really like playing that way because I feel like it would change potentially how people would vote, but I guess I should leave this more to the pros and the cons. You got popular, which is if you get at least half of the votes, then you gain a point. There's a bunch of drinking rules. My personal favorite, the one we played with, was if someone got all the votes, then they had to take a shot. But that's going, your mileage may vary on that sort of thing. So the only thing really left to show you is some of the delicious question cards, and I'll go through 5, 10, 15 of them and read them out to you. Who always gets second place? Who has gotten a massage with a happy ending? Who has stolen money from a family member? Guilty. Who will get convicted of a crime they didn't commit? Who brings an umbrella on days with a 10% chance of rain? Who is the prom king or queen? Who would try to talk down the price of Girl Scout cookies? Who is the oldest when they had their first kiss? Whose life would you like to live? Who is smarter than people think? Who had the most serious relationship in kindergarten? Who would find a way to break out of prison and succeed? Who got the highest score in the SATs? Who was shown up to Thanksgiving dinner high? Guilty. Whose life would win Best Picture if it were turned into a film? Who's most likely to wake up next to someone opposite their normal gender preference and not remember a thing? So as you can see, the questions vary from mildly inappropriate to funny to incredibly inappropriate. But that, in a nutshell, is how the voting game is played. Alrighty then, the voting game from the Voting Game LLC. What are my final thoughts? Let's go over the pros, let's go over the cons. First, on the con side, the game is not going to be for everybody for a lot of different reasons. First, it's not really much of a game. It's more of a social experience, fun time, get-together type of thing, which is not going to be for everybody. There are some house rules in there that can turn it into a game, but I don't really like those house rules, to be honest, so I would pretty much just recommend this as a social experience, and some people don't want to have fun social experiences. That sounds weird. Continuing onward, it is adult theme party game, so if you don't like the adult theme, this one might not be for you. You don't want to probably bust this out at a family get-together because things will get real awkward real quick when the daughter votes for grandpa as being the one most likely to wake up next to a man or something like that. Unless your family's cool like that, which in that case, invite me to your next family get-together because that sounds like a lot of fun. Continuing onward, I feel like there's a lot of cards in this game that you don't use in every game. And in fact, there's 110 cards in this box that are just voting cards and player setup cards and that sort of thing. And if you only play like a 6-player game, you're going to have 40 cards left in the box. And you're like, man, I wish those were more questions. But that's neither here nor there. I understand why they did that because that drives down the price point, which is always a good thing. Driving down the price point, that is. Continuing onward, I wish that there was some way that they put like a little tiny symbol in like the bottom left hand of a card or something to symbolize whether a card is really inappropriate or not. There was actually a party game that I really enjoyed called Billionaire Banshee that did something similar to that. The game in itself is nothing at all like this game, but it had a way of discerning between the really inappropriate cards just from the mildly inappropriate cards. So that way if you did want to try busting out a family get-together, you can say, all right, take out this, take out that, take out this, take out this. But only the most the most risque ones. Just maybe something to consider for the third version of the game. Any more cons about this game? Oh yeah, big one. Do not play this game with anyone who is super sensitive, because there are some cards that will really hurt people's feelings if they're super sensitive, which is their fault. Not your fault, not this game's fault, that's their fault. Let's just get that straight. But yes, so if you're playing with someone like that, then, well, probably don't play this game. One last thing. If you play with a group who is not going to have witty banter, who is not going to tell stories, who's just going to read aloud the card and then vote and then guess and then not say much of anything else at all, this game might not be for you. This game really shines. Let's go over the pros. I really do enjoy this game. It's a lot of fun, even though I do stand by the fact that it's more of a social experience than a game. When you're telling witty stories, when you're telling stories about why you voted for someone or why you think someone did this, or going back into someone's past and be like, yeah, you remember when you did that? And they're like, oh yeah, I did do that. Maybe I was the most likely one to do that. And it's fun. You learn a lot about your friends with this game. And I like that an awful lot. There's a lot of laughs to be had in this tiny box. Honestly, for your buck, this is a fun game. Also, each time you play with a different crowd, the game is going to be different, because while the questions stay the same, the answers are going to be different for everyone, and I like that an awful lot. 5 players to 10 players, it plays well at just about every player count. I mean, it's good. As long as you have 5, I definitely would not recommend doing some house rules where you have 3 or 4. I think you optimally need 5. I like the moment in the game where you're trying to guess who picked you. And then maybe you'll get like 2 out of 3 right, and then you won't get that third one right. You're like, who thinks that about me? And it just eats away at you a little bit. And I like that an awful lot. That's kind of fun. I also like messing with people from time to time and just throwing them an awkward vote. Like, for something that's completely awkward and doesn't fit them at all, and they're like, what? And it's like, I don't know who did that. And then if they do guess you and they call you out, and they're like, why would you think that? It's like, yeah, I was just messing with you. So yes, it's a social experience. It's not a game. But with that being said, it's a really fun one. The Voting Game LLC, highly recommended. Nice, compact, portable, funny, enjoyable, fits just, that perfect kind of light social get-together category. One I recommend you check out. It looks like it might be for you. That's the voting game from the Voting Game LLC. If you enjoy this content, please be sure to click on the subscribe button down below. And in the comments below, let me know what is your favorite light, casual party game with not too much gamery in it at all. For me personally, it's a game called Captoons, which unfortunately was not released. I did a Kickstarter review for it. I loved the game. I actually tried to solicit him to see if I could launch the game on Kickstarter for him, since they failed by quite a lot. But it was essentially you matched up like funny phrases with these cartoons that were really, really funny. Highly recommend that game. Granted, you can't get it, so that kind of stinks. But let me know in the comments below, what is your favorite light casual party game? And as always, thanks for your time, YouTube. That was a review for the Voting Game. For more reviews and previews, check back at Bauer's Game Corner.